rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Oh, goodness. I hope everybody enjoyed their 3-day weekend. I know I kind of did. Memorial Day after the show, kind of ended up having to work on a couple of things, but, you know, that's just the life of a podcaster, content creator, radio station, well, digital radio station, owner, etc. Not to mention a husband and a father. Ugh, boy, what a mess. Anyway, all right, let's go ahead and get things kicked off tonight. Tonight we have my news on deck for the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one like me. And, of course, place your hand over your heart and follow along with my news as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, I thank you, my news, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself performing the pledge in your style, and then, of course, take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, and send it off to me, send it off to fans. You just attach it to an email. Send it off to fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. All right, and tonight's sponsor is the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government, as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.americanperspective.online, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.americanperspective.online to get great content, to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.americanperspective.online, or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, go to constitution.americanperspective.online. Take a look at this. 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant. Look at that binding, folks. That is not cheap glue. That is stitched all the way through the leather and the pages contained within. It's got a 100-year warranty against materials and manufacturing defects, such that if something does go wrong, you can send it back to the manufacturer and they will either fix it or replace it for free. It is buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved, and my youngest whiskey warrior has confirmed that the information contained within will help you to study for your civics badge in scouting. It'll probably also help you to study for your civics exam if you have one. As Nana and, of course, Bonnie, they're both together. Uh-oh. You're in their neck of the woods. Let me tell you, trouble's coming. Anyway, they both say that there is sexy rounded corners on this thing. So head on over to constitution.americanperspective.online and get yours today. Also, check out the rest of the Institute on the Constitution's offerings, as they are a wonderful brand affiliate, and I thank them for allowing me to be one. They have some fantastic stuff. You know, speaking of them, Institute on the Constitution, there's some memes running around. Now, I don't know if this is really true or not, but there's some memes running around on social saying that Harvard has apparently, or is apparently, going to launch like 5 free online lessons on the Constitution. Because for whatever reason, they're, you know, obviously in the pissing match with Donald Trump right now. I hate to say, well, no, I don't hate to say this, but I hate it for Harvard, because Harvard doesn't seem to understand that according to the Constitution, education is not even a constitutionally mandated responsibility of the federal government, according to Article 1, Section 8, and therefore the 10th Amendment applies. Anyway, also constitutionally speaking, the president can divert funds if they're not specifically sent by Congress to that purpose. He can divert those funds and move them around as necessary. So his threat to do it, to take it from Harvard and give it to trade schools, I think is just fantastic. But anyway, all of that being said, I was basically talking about the Harvard Constitution thing. And yeah, 3 Chevy says, you mean somebody there has read it? I would assume that they would have had to have read it in order to create the lessons. But all of that being said, I basically have been telling people, hey, Heritage has been doing free lessons on the Constitution, and the Institute on the Constitution has been doing free lessons on the Constitution. And I would trust both of those outlets more than I would trust a leftist organization known as Harvard. Harvard would probably tell you that the Constitution has this thing called separation of church and state that is separated by a wall, and nary should anything touch each other, which of course is entirely false. They might even tell you that the words separation of church and state actually exist in the Constitution, which they don't. They might even tell you that the Constitution tells you that you as people have the right to overthrow the government. It is your constitutional right. Yeah, that doesn't show up there either. That's actually in the Declaration of Independence. Yeah. So anyway, they'll probably tell you that the Constitution says that you must give all of your taxes and everything else, all your hard-earned money, over to the government, and the government is your mama bear. And you're supposed to be, you know, begging for scraps from them. Yeah, no, that's not in the Constitution either. Anyway, all right, I digress. Enough of that. Let's move on. All right. So, the whole thing, and I want to cover this fairly quickly, but the whole thing about Joe Biden and his cognitive decline has been the mainstream media, who essentially have been asking the question, or not asking the question, but basically acting, I should say, acting as though the question is not whether they were a part of it, but whether or not, you know, they were fooled as well. Well, there was a survey done, a poll, I guess, and it's a national survey of U.S. likely voters put together by Rasmussen. And, yeah, it's got some pretty interesting results in terms of this. So nearly 3/4 of the respondents rate the cover-up of Biden's cognitive condition by White House staffers as a, quote, serious scandal. And that number, of course, is including half, that's 48%, roughly half, who think that it's a very serious scandal. Almost 2/3 of them say that the major media weren't fooled, but instead helped with the cover-up. including 42% of that 2/3 deeming it very likely that the media covered it up. So a full 89% of the people who believe that the cover-up is very serious also say that it's likely that the media was aware of Biden's mental decline but chose to cover it up, including 74% who consider it very likely the media were willfully complicit in the cover-up. Conversely, 95% of those who think it's no big deal that the White House staff covered it up don't care if the media helped them do it. Now, keep in mind, that's not 95% of the people. That's 95% of the people who think that it's no big deal, which is a very small percentage because, as I just said, nearly 3/4 of the respondents all said that, yeah. Anyway, this whole thing is just a big, huge disaster, and it's going to go in history. I'm going to tell you, history-wise, it's going to go down as even worse than Watergate. Just telling, just saying. All right. Well, we now have the actual plan of the Jake Tapper book. Remember how I told you that, Jake Tapper was one of those people that, seemed to be maybe turning the tide, or at least on this particular issue, starting to open up about it and talk about it and be real, but not that he actually has changed his tune or changed his stripes per se with the whole zebra or leopard, they don't change their coloring. Well, we now understand what the grift is all about. That's right. Jake Tapper and his co-author, they don't care about the fact that the book is about Joe Biden. In fact, they're now using this as a stepping stone to present the fact that they can start questioning whether or not Donald Trump is cognitively impaired. So they're basically saying to themselves, to themselves and to all of us, hey, now that we've been able to write this book and recognize the cognitive decline of Joe Biden, now we are better prepared and much more official. You can believe us when we tell you that Donald Trump is cognitively impaired. That's their whole point. That's what they're doing for it. So, yeah. Here, just kind of take a listen to this little.
Interesting. How has writing this important book, investigating the Biden presidency, Jake, informed you about how to cover the current president?
Well, I just think in general, not Trump specific, but in general, I think that the press corps, and I'm certainly including myself, needs to worry less about politeness when it comes to these health issues, and needs to be even more aggressive when it comes to demanding transparency on health issues when it comes to the president. President Trump, while he appears healthy, he has not been transparent about his health records. And I think that that's something that the American people have a right to.
Yeah. So do you hear that? Do you hear that little shift? He's basically now pointing out, and believe me, he and his co-author, both of them are hitting the same talking points. They're now trying to essentially say, hey, now that we've seen this and we're no longer, we got to be more critical of Donald Trump. So this whole book deal, and honestly, writing the book and everything else, obviously it's a money-making thing for them or whatever, but, maybe even some kind of promotional opportunity for them. Because obviously they can, if it goes to be a New York Times bestseller or something like that, they can go and say, hey, we're New York Times selling authors, so on and so forth. But anyway, this is the grift. The grift is, hey, we reported on Joe Biden, so we're honest now. And when we say that Donald Trump is in a mental decline, you got to believe us. Yep. I was saying, hey, just be cautious, believe them now, believe them because they're actually finally telling the truth, but don't believe what's going on with that. Now, keep in mind, Thompson is also saying something very similar here. Take a listen to this.
You take the lessons learned from the book, both about where the country is on having elder presidents, and more importantly, where the media is. Is there a double standard in which, in a way, the way the media covered Joe Biden's health versus Donald Trump's health during the campaign? And certainly now, is there a double standard with the way we are covering it? I mean, are you out there also investigating and reporting about Trump's health in the same rigor that you did this book?
I'm so glad you asked this question, because while we didn't know that much about Joe Biden's health, we know even less about Donald Trump's health. He was completely untransparent during the 2023-2024 campaign. He has not been transparent since, and there is no mechanism forcing him or any future president to being transparent about their health. He could be on anything. We really have no idea. So I think it's like a really vital question. I will say that, in 2023, I wrote an entire piece about how Donald Trump had not been transparent about any of his health. The last month or two, I admittedly have been busy with this book, so I have not returned to the subject. But I think it's completely fair. Donald Trump was older on his inauguration day than Joe Biden was on his. Donald Trump's health is completely fair game, and there should be incredibly investigative reporting onto how it's affecting his job as president.
Well, even if he...
Oh, yeah. Did you catch that? Oh, hey, Donald Trump's older. He's older than Joe Biden was when he got inaugurated. So, yeah, we can now confidently talk because we knew the full story. No, you didn't, you moron. All you did was write a book that was, based on truth and facts. But the point that I told you, or the moment that I told you that the original sin was not actually talking about the mainstream media's sycophantic following of the whole hook, line, and sinker from the White House saying, oh, no, he's sharp as a nail, sharp as a tack. It can't, No. There's no cognitive decline here. Yeah. No. Now, see, this is what they're doing, is they're setting up. Now, keep in mind, too, also, did you hear the question? The question was, in the original state was, well, talking about older presidents. Where do you think they're going with that question? Could it possibly be that they're trying to set up the Democrat Party to look at younger presidential candidates? Like maybe they might be trying to prime the pipelines for, an AOC run, possibly. Or at least somebody that's not in their 70s, 60s or 70s, that kind of thing. I've got a little something a little bit later on talking about that. But yeah, this entire book thing, don't take, understand, if you want to buy the book, buy the book. If you want to borrow it from the library, okay, well, do it from the library. But the point here is that the Democrat Party is trying to set things up such that they can either one or both attack Trump, get a younger presidential candidate, and possibly even both. Again, these are kind of the master plans that are running along. Well, anyone who is shifting gears here, anybody that's watched Dan Bongino before, Dan Bongino, has been focused a lot of his time and energy on the pipe bombings. Well, not the actual pipe bombings, but the pipe bombs that were found at both the RNC and the DNC. And first of all, whether or not they actually were planted by somebody nefarious, or whether or not somebody, it was kind of like an inside job, because the thought was, or the thought is, I should say, that it was sort of a backup plan in case things didn't go quite as well as they did at the to the left, at the Capitol, to be able to have a backup plan to essentially accuse the MAGA of essentially being domestic violent extremists. I got a little something on that too in just a little bit. But Dan Bongino has now said that the FBI is reopening cases on these essential cover-ups, Biden-era cover-ups. One of them is the January 6th pipe bomb incidents, the 2022 Supreme Court draft opinion leak. You'll remember that was right before the Dobbs decision, which overturned Roe v. Wade. Okay. And the last one is the 2023 cocaine discovery inside the White House. Like, whose was it? Now, Dan, honestly, the only one out of those three that Dan has not talked about on his show prior to his moving to the FBI was the draft opinion leak. He did mention it a few times, but the two that he has really been kind of grabbed onto because he has, specific insider knowledge based on his work history as a Secret Service agent of things like the cocaine discovery in the White House and why the pipe bombs were not found by Secret Service as they were clearing the DNC for the visit by the potential VP at the time, and who actually became VP that day, or had already been elected as VP, and so was under Secret Service protection. So anyway, the point is that he's basically saying they're making progress. He's receiving requested briefings on those cases, and that he's asked for the public to assist in the investigations by submitting any relevant information or tips directly to the FBI. So they are taking a look at all of this again. And I'm hoping that they'll come up with something because, it would kind of suck if they actually didn't get anybody there for that. All right. So, Trump's VA secretary, delivered some good news for veterans yesterday. And I didn't cover it because obviously it was Veterans Day's special. So I didn't really talk about any news as of yesterday, but I can go ahead and talk about this now. Let's go ahead and let's see. Let's go ahead and listen to VA Secretary Doug Collins' announcement of this actually pretty good news for all of this. So let's take a listen.
Hey everybody, it's Doug. I got some good news for Friday. We've been working really hard here, and I've got some greatest employees in the world here at the VA, and they've all focused on doing what I promised you would do from the very first video I had in this office when I said veterans are going to be first here at the VA. Well, one of the big issues that we always deal with is the backlog of disability claims. When I first stepped in here, it was really high, over 260,000. I just want to tell you that we're under 200,000, a 25% reduction in just the last 100 days. Since January 20th, we're making a difference, getting those backlogs cleared out, getting our disability claims processed so that you can get the benefits that you've earned. Also, I got some great news as well. Just in the month of April, we processed more claims than we've ever processed. And since back to work, which we brought people back into our offices, in which many of our critics said, oh, that's going to cause chaos and disruption. You know what's happened? Our workers stepped up, and we're processing more claims the first day they were back than we'd ever had. And you know what? It's grown ever since. So when we do this, what does it mean to you? It means your disability claims are getting processed quicker. The backlog is clearing out. We're processing more right now than are coming in. That's a great thing. Now, look, we got a long way to go, and this department's never going to stop. because the VA is about one thing. It's about you, the veteran. So this Memorial Day, look, know the VA is taking care of you, making sure we did it, but also take a moment as well to remember those who didn't come home. We have families and survivors who have empty places at the table for the freedoms that we have. We'll never forget those who gave all for us, and I'll never forget the veterans who still serve every day and get served by us at the VA.
Well, that's pretty good. I mean, they're talking about processing more claims and everything else. That's fantastic. But there's also even more news as well. The plans are underway to open additional facilities in a couple of different places. They've opened 10 new healthcare facilities during the second Trump administration. Now, you can see in this, let's see if I can get this to zoom in here. There we go. You can see they've got, there's several locations, a couple in Colorado, one in Texas, one in, let's see, what's next to, oh boy, that's almost like, Missouri. Boy, now I'm starting to look at my geography here to try and figure this out. Well, anyway, you can see it there on the map. I mean, they're looking to open new locations. Now, for those of you that may not know this, if you don't live close to a VA center or a VA hospital, you may have to travel a very long time or a very far distance to get the services that you require. So living close to a VA hospital, especially when you think about those National Guard troops that have been fighting for us on the front lines in places such as Afghanistan, Iraq, and those, within recent times, all of those folks who have had injuries sustained while serving, many of them go back to their home states, and some home states don't even have a VA hospital very close by. Within like 400 miles or whatever, the local hospitals kind of take over and sort of do it through like a private healthcare type of scenario. But in this particular case, the more VA hospitals that we can get in some places that don't have one already, the better off we're going to be, because we can get the services to the consumers, which are the vets who need these services. Now, I am lucky enough to live close to one in Seattle, Washington, but there are plenty of people who do not live close enough to a hospital, to a VA hospital, in order to be able to fully get the care that they need. And so there you go. That's an additional one. They've opened new medical facilities in states such as Texas, Virginia, New York, and even Montana. And that Montana one is actually quite interesting, because I don't think they have a VA hospital in Boise. So all of Idaho can actually head on over to that Montana location. So that's really nice for that. So good news for vets. They're making some great progress over there at the VA. And so yeah, that's really, really good. Really good news for vets. And as he is emphasizing, they are attempting to restore efficiency, efficiency and accountability within the department. So, and it looks like he's delivering. So that's some fantastic news. Well, if you're wanting to enlist in the services, particularly the United States Army, there's a new ad. There's a new ad that's come out. And believe me, it's a good one. So, here you go. Let's take a look at this new ad put together by, of course, Pete Hegseth and the great President Donald Trump.
no more distractions. No more electric tanks, no more gender confusion, no more climate change worship. We are laser focused on our mission of warfighting.
We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. It's called peace through strength.
You look into the eyes of these young Americans who are giving up the best years of their life in a uniform to serve their nation. They are incredible.
Through our power and might, we will lead the world to peace. Our friends will respect us, our enemies will fear us, and the whole world will admire the unrivaled greatness of the United States military. We will replenish the pride of our armed forces, end the recruitment crisis.
We don't fight because we hate what's in front of us. We fight because we love what's behind us.
God bless you. God bless our armed forces. God bless our men and women serving overseas. And God bless the United States of America.
Yeah. That's a recruitment video. I don't know if anybody remembers, but I played the last administration's idea of a recruitment video that talked about one particular soldier who had like 2 mothers or something like that, and it was animated, and yeah, come join the military or whatever. But yeah. So anyway. That's what I call a recruitment ad. And I'm sorry, I said U.S. Army. There was a lot of U.S. Army in that video, but it was actually for all of the military services, not just the United States Army. I'm a little partial because that's where I came from, but that's okay. That's okay. It's for everybody. I saw some Ospreys in there, which are the Marines. You saw naval ships. There's other Marines that were running around in some of those fighting vehicles I don't even know the nomenclature of because I'm so far removed from that life. But anyway, that's what I call a recruitment video. Go out and show what you're going to be doing. You're going to be blowing things up. You're going to be shooting things. You're going to be jumping out of helicopters. You're going to be jumping out of perfectly good airplanes. You're going to be flying across the water in speedboats and all kinds of stuff. That is a recruitment video. Oh, that's fantastic. Anyway, they actually have been upping their recruitment goals and things like that. They've been getting a lot of recruits because, well, let's face it, they've shifted their focus on where it actually should be in terms of recruitment and what these things are going to do. All right. Let me take a second and a quick break. Let's take a listen or take a conversation. Let's have a conversation about coffee. I love coffee. I couldn't get up without it. I'm telling you, I'm serious. I can't. I would go through withdrawals. I would have a problem. And I'd get a headache too if I did not have my coffee in the morning. Well, what's great is there is this stuff called 1775 coffee. And if you still haven't tried it, now's your shot. 1775 starter kit just dropped. There's a limited amount of units that are available. What you'll get is the bold dark roast that hits harder than a CNN fact check. Yeah, that's not too hard to do. Anyway, hopefully 1775 will change that. But anyway, the smooth medium roast and the Vitality Mushroom Coffee for a clean energy and laser focus, no crash later kind of drink. All of it is single origin, small batch, toxin free, mold free. Plus, you're also getting, and this first item, I'm telling you, this is a fantastic item to get. gold spoon clip, because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. Oh, that's just fantastic. You also get a frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's political opinions. Don't forget a black 1775 tumbler that says, "I don't take life advice or caffeine from a woke sea witch." I'm telling you. It's $175 worth of coffee and gear, all yours for $99. This is for the ones who have been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler alert, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio. But for those of you that are a little illiterate on the forward and backslash, that's the question mark key. 1775coffee.com/studio, STUDIO, and grab your starter kit before they're gone. I told you they're a limited number out there. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. Start your day with coffee that actually backs what you believe. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and pick up your starter kit today. All right. So, for those of you who felt like the last 4 years in particular, that felt like you were being targeted, well, guess what? You were. The Southern Poverty Law Center, which is a leftist organization, if I ever heard one. Anyway, they put the largest conservative grassroots youth group, for those of you that don't know, that's Turning Point USA, is now on the hate map with the Ku Klux Klan. This, according to the Daily Signal, they added Turning Point USA to the hate map that plots KKK chapters and claims to expose the group upholding white supremacy in the United States. Yeah. The latest version of the map, released last Thursday, lists Turning Point USA for the first time, categorizing the group as an anti-government extremist group. Yeah, I don't know how they figure that out, because Charlie Kirk is not necessarily anti-government, and he's definitely not an extremist. But the hate map also includes Prager University, which is a nonprofit that uses digital media to spread conservative ideas, and puts it in the same category as Turning Point USA. Critics have long accused the SPLC of liberal bias in applying its hate accusations, though the SPLC contests these claims. Well, of course they do. All the leftists contest the hate claims, even though we know that they hate. They hate America. They hate Christians. They hate white people. They hate men. And I'm not talking about their girly men. I'm talking about their manly men. I'm talking about manly men. And they hate marriage. They hate good old conservative Christian values, and they hate it all. And that's the left. Now, why they're not on the SPLC's hate map is beyond me. Oh, wait a minute. That's because the SPLC is left. They don't think they are. But anyway. By the way, PragerU did tell the Daily Signal that the SPLC itself did not reach out to them, to PragerU, prior to being put on the hate map. A PragerU representative said, no, they did not notify us. And if they'd like to know how we feel about the SPLC, we actually have an entire 5-minute video about them titled The Anti-Hate Group That Is a Hate Group. Yeah. So Turning Point USA describes itself as the largest and fastest growing youth organization in America, touting a presence on over 3,500 campuses. It has more than 100 college chapters and over 1,000 high school chapters. Its aim is to build a more organized, active, and powerful conservative grassroots activist network on high school and college campuses across the country. This was the brainchild of Charlie Kirk to go ahead and do. And he says, I founded Turning Point USA to take the fight for ideological diversity directly to the progressive stronghold, the nation's leading colleges and universities. He said that in 2019. So, yeah. Southern Poverty Law Center, putting conservative groups on hate maps. Well, they're doing it because of the fact that the last administration actually called conservative groups domestic violent extremists, especially those who might have opposed the COVID-19 mandates. Yes, that's right. Well, DNI Tulsi Gabbard confirmed this on a Fox News outlet. Let's go ahead and take a listen to what she said.
Done here, what was done under the Biden administration. Was it they were saying that everyone who opposed, say, mask mandates or the vaccination of children are domestic violent extremists? Or were they saying that those are opinions often held by domestic violent extremists?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. That when you look at the language of these documents that I've declassified, first, the strategic implementation plan of the Biden administration's designation of potential violent domestic extremists, it really talks about people who may likely turn out to be domestic violent extremists, or those who may likely turn to violence because of these specific quote-unquote ideologies that they hold. And there's a consistent thread through here that these ideologies that they are designating as turning into potentially violent activities or being manifested in violent activities happen to be those of people who were using their First Amendment rights to oppose certain policies of the Biden administration. And while some of the examples that are focused on there have to do with those who opposed the COVID vaccine mandates, those who opposed the mask mandates, parents who were concerned that their children going to school may be forcibly vaccinated with the COVID vaccine without the consent or awareness of parents. The list goes on, but it's not exclusive to this. In some of these reports that we've declassified, it shows that people who were opposed to Biden's border policy, for example, could therefore have propensities to join a militia or could become these domestic violent extremists that we're talking about here. And again, it's important to look at this in the totality and the sequence of how this happened. These documents were issued in December of 2021. You remember very well, Will, the speech, the ominous speech that President Biden gave in 2022, where with this red background and Marines standing in the background, he issued an address to the nation warning the American people that Donald J. Trump and MAGA Republicans pose a direct threat to the fabric of our republic. And then you put that together with how the FBI and others within the Biden administration directed social media companies to censor Americans and undermine our First Amendment rights because, of course, the social media companies don't want to be in a position to support the spread of domestic violent extremism. So when you look at all of these things together, you understand at its core the thing that I committed to the American people to root out, which is the weaponization and politicization of the intelligence community and national security state against the American people.
Director, it's a little bit like that analogy or the test that I had to take when I took the law school entrance exam.
All right, well, I thought he was going to finish his thought a lot quicker. Anyway, so she's basically saying that the declassified documents kind of have interesting cross-sectional analyses, basically saying that if you question the COVID vaccine, which if you're an intelligent person, you would. Questioned the mask mandates. Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, you question those, which any intelligent individual would. You question whether or not your kids going off to a public school were going to all of a sudden get a shot without your knowledge, especially here in the unfortunate state of Washington to be under Democrat totalitarian rule. Yeah. And all of that apparently causes you potentially to become a domestic violent extremist. Yet not a single word about all of the BLM riots, the Summer of Love, which caused more damage and lasted way longer than anything that January 6th did. It took more lives, caused more damage, et cetera, et cetera. But no. January 6th is what you have to focus on, not the BLM riots. Really? Yeah. Sorry, but I am not following along with any of that, bull crap. All right. So, the questions, I got some time. The questions that everybody is asking because of the downfall of the Democrats, and by downfall, I mean the utter dissolution of what is normally a Democrat, coalition, let's say. Because the Democrats typically, whenever you attack them, it's like everybody's in lockstep. Well, as of right now, internally, it looks like there's a lot of frustration. And it all kind of started with the left losing Joe Biden and the utter collapse of Kamala Harris, their darling child, who didn't deserve to be in the Oval Office anyway, much less alone be next to the Oval Office. But the point here is that we've got to start looking forward. Now, not that I'm necessarily, wanting to talk about 2028, because we do have 2026 coming up, but there's some interesting things that have been occurring that I think a lot of people are going to be paying attention to. For an example, Gavin Newsom. Obviously, his first, the whole idea that he and Ron DeSantis did that governor to governor debate, and Gavin Newsom just basically got shellacked. The whole reason for that, obviously, is because of the fact that Gavin Newsom really felt like he could potentially be the candidate, and that Ron DeSantis was going to be making his presidential debut and potentially be the candidate. Now, there's nothing that says that they won't be potential candidates in 2028. But the thing about it is that Gavin Newsom is living a pipe dream because of the fact that he's got a lot of baggage. And one angle in particular is the fact of how many people have been leaving the state of California in terms of population. Now, a lot of folks have been saying, oh, no, California is not losing population. Well, actually, yes, they are. They're losing the voting population, at least until they get all of the entire state and everything else to allow illegals to vote. But that still isn't going to do anything for the federal election system. Well, according to the Wall Street Journal, in this particular case, California has been losing voters and replacing them with immigrants. Those that have visas, whether legal, legal visas, H-1Bs, etc. And then, of course, obviously the illegal population that has come in, the illegal alien population. But they've been steadily losing regular voters. And 56% of Californians have considered leaving the state due to the exorbitant cost of living, according to a 2024 Emerson College poll. Californians' median home price, oh my Lord, median, meaning the middle, the one in the middle, topped $900,000 in 2024. That's double the national average. Actually, I should say well over double the national average. Utility and gas prices are still remaining the highest in the nation. The state's population decreased for the first time in history in 2020 when over 477,000 Californians left, leading to the state losing a congressional seat. The population continued to decline until about 2023, which was then buoyed by an influx of international immigrants. These are people, again, that are part of the H-1B visa program. It allows businesses to employ skilled foreign workers with bachelor's degree. That program brought in nearly 79,000 workers to the state in 2024, according to the Wall Street Journal. However, the applicants for the program have fallen 25% compared to a year ago due to higher fees and expectations that the Trump administration could impose more restrictive immigration policies. So, yeah. California has the highest share of foreign-born workers in the nation, with more than a quarter of its population being from outside the U.S., according to the Public Policy Institute of California. As of about 2022, it was estimated that 17% of California's immigrant population was in the country illegally, according to the Pew Research Center. Now, Gavin Newsom hasn't made any friends because, in terms of the Democrat Party, because he seriously has been having problems with his Democrat-controlled legislature. Now, normally, the governor in that particular scenario, he had control of the Democrat-run legislature, but he's lost control. And a lot of that has come down to the point where he basically has laid the blame at the feet of both himself, which this is amazing for a Democrat, both himself and the Democrat legislature of California for the illegal immigrant homeless crisis and / homeless crisis that's been going on. So, you know, Gavin Newsom, while he is obviously making moves, and he's one of the ones that you definitely will expect. You definitely will expect that when it comes to 2027, that he'll be throwing his hat into the presidential ring. I'm fairly certain of that. But whether or not he gets the nomination is going to be questionable. Now, don't forget, Jasmine Crockett has already stated publicly that she believes that it will be a white male who is nominated by the Democrat Party in 2028. So she basically, she's saying that the Democrat Party is already set up and setting everything up in order to nominate a white male again, maybe due to their belief in the shellacking that they got from Kamala Harris, being the fact that she was a person of color and a female, and they think that that was their downfall, other than the fact that she was a garbage candidate who couldn't actually speak clear sentences. Anyway, well, he's not the only one. There's another guy. Yeah. Timmy Walls. Tampon Timmy. He's been making moves, demonstrating that he might be thinking about a presidential run, because he seems to think that being the governor of Minnesota and being an all-around dude who might be able to change the filter on an old truck qualifies him to be president. Other than the fact that he ran when BLM took over Minnesota and let it burn. But anyway, I digress. Or that he was a stolen valor coward. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, he said you can't, you know, hyping up his record. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, Tim Walz apparently called on some Texans to move to free Minnesota on social media. And he is definitely hinting that his ambitions are beyond Minnesota, that he wants to actually potentially run, maybe not for the president, or maybe not for the vice presidency, but definitely for the presidency, because, well, let's face it, he really wasn't much of a VP candidate pick anyway. But yeah, he's been, obviously preparing himself by talking bad about Trump and the administration being authoritarian, referring to ICE agents as a modern day Gestapo. Because, yeah, that's really going to work, is go after an 80-20 issue that, most of America wants, even your leftist lunatics. But anyway, well, except the leftist lunatics. I'm sorry. I'll put that out there. But he also drew attentions to encouraging Texans to move to Minnesota, referring to the state as free. It was following a Texas Tribune paper report on the potential legislative action to restrict THC-based products. For those that don't know, those are like cannabis oil-based products. So the Texas House recently advanced a measure that could limit certain THC items, prompting Walz to respond publicly about it. And he says, Texans, flee the nanny state and come up north to join the land of the free. Yeah, well, guess what? You were the nanny state, dude. You were the nanny state. You're the one that put in a telephone number for neighbors to report on their other neighbors and friends whenever they went outside or didn't wear masks or whatever during COVID. Yeah, talk about nanny state. Well, yeah, that immediately got slapped. First by Ted Cruz. He responded and said, Tim, you let your state burn to the ground as you opened up a hotline to encourage Minnesotans to snitch on each other for not wearing a mask. Sit the free state debate out. A person by Arizona Patriot, a person goes by Arizona Patriot on X, says, free? You wouldn't even let people stand on their own doorsteps, you clown. And it has a New York Post article talking about shocking video that shows the enforcement that Tim Walz was doing by shooting paintballs at residents as they stood in their doorways. Yeah. That was the enforcement of a curfew by Tim Walz. Yeah. Yep. I don't think he's, anyway. I don't think he's going to go anywhere. All right. Well, I got to get this little ad in because it showed up and I'll be honest with you, I would like to see the revenue off of that. All right. This sponsorship is from Rumble, one that is incredibly important to the survival of the company. When Rumble first started in 2013, they built the platform for the small creator. They didn't censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought platforms would censor political conversation or censor opinions on COVID, but they did. Facebook admitted they fell to the pressure of the Biden-Harris administration. Rumble did not. They held the line. They're attacked daily for giving us a voice to talk to you. They're attacked in corporate media, governments like France. They're attacked from brand advertisers who refuse to work for them. Corporate America is fighting to remove free speech. Rumble is fighting to keep it. Rumble won't survive with brand advertisers. They don't get much brand advertisement. Watching our show on Rumble is the most they can ask of you. But if you really believe in this fight, and if you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. Join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble is offering $10 off with the promo code STUDIO when you purchase an annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO. Go to rumble.com/premium and use promo code STUDIO. Like I said, if you have the means and believe in the cause, now is the time to join Rumble Premium. If you don't have the means, that's okay. We are just happy that you watch us on Rumble. Alrighty, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. Nana, get those pictures in. I know you took pictures. Get those pictures in to me. I'll show them tomorrow if you need to. Anyway, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free, and all you have to do is sign up and sign in, and once you are signed up and signed in, Search for the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Also, too, don't forget the thumbs up, and if you really want to, I mean, you can give them a thumbs down. Anyway, thumbs up or thumbs down, go ahead and do that on all of my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, and, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Whiskey Wednesday, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.